Hello, everyone. Today I'd like to talk about a really weird film from 1935. Qualifies as a horror film, loosely in that kind of vein. And it's Mad Love, which was directed by Carl Freund. And Carl Freund was known for directing The Mummy. He worked a cinematographer on the original Dracula, the Todd Browning film. And yeah, this is an interesting film. Uh, Peter Lorre really coming into his own here. He plays a really sick, twisted, demented, mad doctor of sorts named, I believe, Dr. Gogol. And he's in love with an actress, a British actress, Frances Drake. And there's a picture of the two of them there. You get a whole feel right from the idea of the movie right from that photo, okay? And Francis Drake was also in a Universal film called The Invisible Ray from 1936. Um, we have this taking place in Paris. Uh, the Peter Lorre character, Dr. Gogol, is a really accomplished, fantastic Class A surgeon. But yet he's really kind of lost in the mind when it comes to being in love with this actress. As a matter of fact, he has a wax statue dedicated to her that he ultimately puts inside his home. And he talks to the statue and he's in love with the statue. And eventually seeks to possess this woman. Now, the whole thing is a problem because she's married. She's a married lady and she's married to a pianist played by Colin Clive. A lot of you know Colin Clive, the name, if you watch the original Frankenstein. He plays Dr. Frankenstein, and he also reprised that role in the sequel, also in 1935, The Bride of Frankenstein. So here we have Colin Clive, which is a good opportunity to see him in something else. He's a really talented pianist, and he and his wife are very much in love. But there's an unfortunate accident where his hands get crushed and he's not able to play the piano anymore, and he runs the risk of having his hands amputated. So the girl kind of plays in on the infatuation that Peter Lorre character has for her in order to get him to replace her husband's hands. Now, the original source of the material for this is from a story called The Hands of Orlok. And that's the name of the Colin Clive pianist character. His name is Orlok. And I don't want to spoil too much of it, but I will say this much, which is important to the plot, right? We have a killer whose specialty is killing with knives. He's an expert at throwing knives and hitting his targets and killing people that way. And he's guillotined, gets his head chopped off. And it's his hands that Peter Lorre decides to graft onto Colin Clive Orlok's arms. So he actually has the hands of a knife thrower killer. And these hands eventually take their own life upon themselves and they start throwing knives, and he doesn't know why. Apparently, knife throwing is all in the hand and not in the mind. So there you have it. That's the gist of the story. There's some more weird goings on here. It's loosely horror. I mean, it's not. It sounds more horrible the way I'm talking about it than it actually plays out. There is one very horrific scene which I won't describe, but I'll just say that the Colin Clive character kind of confronts somebody that's played by Peter Lorre. That's what I'll say. That's a one really good chilling sequence near the end of the film that really makes it a bona fide horror film, and that's probably one of the most chilling scenes that still holds up in all of early horror from the 30s. What can I say? Peter Lorre is a little over the top, but yet good. He's good and solid in this. It's interesting. It's only 68 minutes, so it goes pretty quick. Francis Drake is good, and so is Colin Clive. The cast is good, with the exception of one cast member. We have, as usual in a lot of these 1930s horror films, kind of an annoying reporter who's always cracking jokes and always getting in the way of everybody. And we have one here too, played by, you ready for this? Ted Healy. Do you know who Ted Healy was? Ted Healy was one of the Stooges originally. Originally, the Three Stooges were actually pawns of Healy. Healy was the straight man, and Moe, Larry, and Shemp originally were Ted Healy's Stooges. So Ted Healy is in here, and sometimes I think he has the mistaken idea and the notion that he's kind of wandered off a Three Stooges set somewhere and into this film where he doesn't really belong. I don't think he sinks the film too much. I could do without the Ted Healy character. I like to poke him in his eyes sometimes, but it doesn't ruin it or anything like that. There's one little mild beef I have with this. I mentioned earlier that the character Peter Lorre plays, the Mad Doctor, actually has a statue that looks like the Francis Drake woman, and he is obsessed with the statue. Well, they actually use shots of Francis Drake herself standing in for the statue. So you could tell it's not a statue. You could tell it's the actress. She moves ever so slightly if you look close enough. I think they should have stuck with an animated statue. Inanimated, I'm sorry, an inanimate statue. Let me get this right. It's hard to come up with words unless you have a script in front of you, folks, sometimes with these reviews. But yeah, I would have liked it better if it was a more inanimate statue throughout that looked really dead on as Francis Drake. I could understand using actual shots of the real actress whenever we're kind of going through Peter Lorre's psyche, and in his mind's eye, he sees it as a real actress. But it's not portrayed like that, really. It's not portray that only in his vision he sees it as alive. It's not like that. They actually use her for shots, which I think that was a misfire. But no, this is certainly an interesting film. The beginning of the film has something I've never seen before when I watched this movie, and I've seen this a couple of times. It has a narration, all in black screen, before the titles start, where they say, basically, paraphrasing here, MGM has decided that they couldn't release this picture without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold a story that may shock you, may horrify you. So if you don't care to subject yourself to such a strain, now is your chance to. Well, we warned you. That comes directly from Frankenstein, from Universal Studios. And during the commentary on this disc, this Blu-ray by Steve Haberman, he suggests that maybe that idea to repeat the Frankenstein formula with that little advance warning before the screening maybe came because John Balderston, who was responsible for Frankenstein, had a hand in this. That's what he thinks. Anyway, on a scale of 4 stars, I'm going to give Mad Love 3 stars out of 4. Talk to you next time.